are back. Welcome to the Smart to Noise Ratio Pro Audio Podcast. This is episode 35. I'm your humble host with a cold, Jon Dayton. To my left, recently recovering from said cold, Anthony Kosobucki.
I think I caught something else again, though. Not like down south, just caught something.
So we both sound like Isaac Hayes this week. I wonder if I can go low enough. But you kids listening on earbuds, you probably didn't even hear those last couple of words. Like, I can get all the way. I can get D2 on a good day anyway. Now when I'm sick, I'm gonna have to hit the grand piano up tomorrow and see how far down I can get. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, girl. When I look at you, oh shucks. Okay, enough silliness. That's without cold medicine too.
Yeah.
So anyway, it got late because we were messing around with Anth's landlord's router, and then we had to type in a alphabet soup password into all our devices that wouldn't connect before. So anyway, it was nice to be able to do that little favor, and now I can actually upload this stuff and not have to try and do it other times and places. So
using 3G tethered from your phone to run anything off your laptop.
Yeah, I wouldn't even barely check my email with that, but. Anyway, so yeah, makes you grateful for connectivity when you have it. So yeah, we're going to open up with, we've covered this before on the blog and on the podcast, but versatility, being the jack of all trades, being able to step up and fix a router, do a little soldering, sew buttons on a costume, basically being able to chip in anywhere. Yeah, do makeup, do hair. We've done it all from not just the glamorous stuff like dimmer repair and asbestos abatement, but sometimes things that even get us close to girls. Like
do they give you a mask when you do the asbestos stuff? Because I didn't get one.
I had never mind. I was going to make a joke about the dog mask, but it was it's one of those things you had to be there. After that thing with the dog mask, I'm never wearing a mask again. That's all I'm saying. But anyway, nothing real heavy about that, but with every industry being like this, the only way to sell yourself, whether you're going to be working in entertainment or working at Walmart, is to be versatile. Anthony and I stayed up very, very late last night talking about just different possibilities in the industry, and he's the kind of guy that here he is. He's probably better than most of the engineers around. And is pondering getting an internship somewhere, and I was like, yeah, you'll be that story. We'll hear you on Pensato's place next year. I'll have some other unfortunate stuck here in Western New York to do the podcast with me because you'll be busy talking to Dave Pensato about I was I got signed on as the coffee boy at a studio, and then 20 or 30 minutes went by, and I got a cup of coffee for Mick Jagger. Next thing you know, I'm doing the New Stones record. Boy just has talent oozing out of him, and we bring him to you every week. So you can say, not that the audience is that huge, but you can say if you listened, you knew him when.
In all reality, I'm going to end up selling cars or something.
Oh, you'd be darn good at it.
I was good at it. I sold more cars than a couple sales.
Man could sell air conditioners to Eskimos. And one of the things is not just his versatility, but his demeanor. That's been brought up a number of times by various people about both of us. We're both, on most days, pretty grouchy, but we swallow it and we make ourselves easy to deal with, at least to the customers. We're sort of like We're sort of like nurses. I worked in a hospital for a while. If you ever talk to a nurse about their occupation, you ask them how they do it, and the answer is we love our patients and we hate everyone else.
That's about right. Like, you can't really. I don't know. They're for me, it's almost backwards. I really love the work. I just don't like my clients most of the time.
Yeah.
Like, I've had some rough stuff come in, and you got two separate ends of the spectrum for recording. You got guys that come in and sound like garbage. They're like, well, you got Pro Tools, so fix that. And you got other guys like me and Brandon who are just idiots. You're like, you know what? Let's not Pro Tool it up. Let's track an entire album and use Pro Tools as a tape machine. Is that George Stephanopoulos selling stuff to the Pawn Stars guys?
No, no.
Are you sure? That's friggin' George. Look at that.
That is not either. Once again, we're doing the podcast with the TV on.
Is his nose not big enough?
Compromised. It's not. I can't even remember what you were talking about now.
George Stephanopoulos is what I was talking about.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, moving on. Actually, I'm glad we decided to move on because we were about to get into.
Good. I got my internet works. I'm gonna figure that out.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead and look that up. Pawn Stars episode 1381. Who's the guy that buys the Ernest Hemingway book? But yeah, demeanor is important too, as well as being able to do. You don't have to necessarily be able to do a lot of things well. Like the button just needs to be on the costume. It doesn't need to be like up to the standards of a Seville Row tailor.
George Stephanopoulos on Pawn Stars buying the book.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't watch anything but NBC News. You can tell.
I don't get to watch the news. All right. So what was the other thing we were saying? Oh, I had our Saturday night service was tonight, and it was one of those nights where the wheels just about fell off. I won't even begin to enumerate all of the things that went wrong, but we got enough people on the crew and in the band that everybody just kind of stuck to their guns, and every single time something went wrong, everybody kind of went, whoa, what's going, okay, we're gonna do, oh, okay, all right, boom, okay, there we go, back on track, we're doing a service.
Yep.
So that was cool to see, because it's largely volunteers. You know, there's myself and my boss, and we were the only two people on staff other than the head pastor. Everybody else in the band and on the crew was a volunteer, and that speaks pretty well to them, to the training that we've taken on together, and just the stuff that they've learned and the work ethic that they brought to it of their own at the start. So that's all pretty important stuff. You don't really get to strut around and stuff in this business. In fact, I walk in and work most days thinking, man, I suck. But I think it's for that reason. Like, I'm so humble too, and I'm not afraid to tell you how humble I am.
When you look at humble in the dictionary, there's a picture of us right there.
But it does pay off, though. I mean, we're somebody who's good at what they do really puts the gig first, and it's because of that. When we walk into the room, people cheer sometimes. Like that literally happens to us. Like, we walk in the door just minding our own business, and we're like, oh my God, it's Anthony! And it's not because we're good looking, and it's not because we smell nice.
Because neither one of those things fairly happen.
Sure as hell ain't because we're rich. We're not even very smart, there's plenty of guys in this business who are better at what we do than we are, but we make it our business to do our best and put that across. So anyway, without this being a civics lesson, we'll move right on. The topics du jour, I think we're actually just going to tease a couple of the things that are coming up because it's doggone late and I'm sick.
Yeah,
I don't have enough cold medicine to get through this and a podcast. But on my end of things, and Anthony's involved with this too, we're getting ready to record, and excuse me. I'm sorry. We're getting ready to record an album of music that my boss wrote, along with a couple other guys in the office. Some of the stuff he wrote with a writing partner, some of the stuff he wrote with other guys from work. But anyway, we had our first production meeting, and there are, 6 guys around the table and 1 guy on Skype. One of the most important parts that we did, the arrangements are all done. The decisions, about who the musicians are going to be are almost done.
There'll be some sneaking.
But, the big question was, how do we navigate this with really a pretty monster team? Like, there's a lot of heavy hitters sitting around that table. I mean, nobody's got a platinum record under their belt, but everybody's got a pretty significant body of work under their belt,
right?
And a lot of overlapping talent. Now, like I'm not worried about getting in an argument over mic pre's with my boss because he couldn't show you one if it was sitting on his lap. And likewise, I don't speak to arrangements because he's brilliant about those things, and I know what one is, but not how to
do one.
Yeah. But his writing partner is kind of a studio monster. So, and also, like, when I didn't realize how much chops the guy had. So, and that he was going to be able to join us.
That's a plus.
Originally, I was thinking, all right, it's going to be me knocking this thing together and dragging it across the finish line. So I drafted Brandon and Anthony to help out because they know all the studio mic things and all, Pro Tools and all this other stuff. But now that we've got a guy that's really well versed in those things, and what's nice about him is he doesn't have to live with our people, so he can sort
be
of
the jerk,
be the bad cop. Yeah. Not that we necessarily need a real bad cop, but if something awkward needs to be said, we don't have to. We don't have to cut somebody down. Like, he can cut them down for us, and we can all still be friends at the end of the day.
Yeah, fly back to Texas.
Yep, he's flying out of town. So anyway, what does my job become then? Now that there are so many more capable and competent people in the room than me, so I was just started thinking, all right, well, I'm pretty good at patching, and these guys know Pro Tools better than me, but they're going to be busy thinking about performances and microphones and preamps. So I want to make it my job to just keep track of patch, and make an assistant out of myself. Why not? But I won't just be the kid sitting there writing down in my notebook whatever the boss says to me. I understand this stuff. I probably understand signal routing better than anybody else in the room. So that's a good spot for me. When it comes time to change something mid-session or restore something in a future session, I'm going to make sure all that information's there and that it's clear and that it's able to be understood. And then the other thing I'm going to do is basically just be traffic cop, because we have on hand people who could very easily, I think, spend a lot of time moving the mic half an inch, changing the mic, changing the routing, changing the pre, changing the compressor, going back to the other compressor.
Yep.
And at some point, it's just time to rock out with your stuff out. It's a family show, even late as it is. But no, at some point...
Your rooster out.
At some point, yes, your rooster. At some point, you just need to get started and make rock and roll, and we've said that a number of times here. So it is important to be very careful about your decisions, especially for us, because we're going to be doing this in a couple of sessions, 3-4 songs one weekend, 3-4 songs another weekend, and then possibly some other stuff. So we're going to need to make sure that our work matches up, and then we don't make oh, well, you can hear that, side A, side B.
Right, yeah.
So, and we want to get the best out of, we don't want to just throw out 24 SM57s and run it into Pro Tools. I mean,
there's still some
Jack White can do
that.
stuff like that. Maybe. Nah, he wouldn't use that many channels or such a classy microphone, I'm thinking. But
digital reference special. Yeah.
But anyway, I feel like it's going to be my job to kind of keep track of how long those discussions go on and say, all right, guys,
how many takes?
It's the middle of the afternoon, and we've got, today's the day. We need to finish stuff up. So I'm gonna be that guy that just advocates for just making rock and roll, because we do have a super team of musicians. They have great expression, great feel, great musicality, and it's material that they all know pretty well, and we're gonna rehearse the daylights out of it before we get in there. So I'm gonna continuously be the advocate for, look, everybody here's smart, everybody knows what they're doing, let's just make some rock and roll. Let's not overthink it, because I don't think it's necessarily Pro Tools or a digital world that suck the life out of things. I think it's people just over-engineering stuff.
Yeah.
You can go too far to clean up your signal path. And actually, in a minute, we'll segue into it, but Anthony's favorite new plugin actually makes analog gear hiss.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's,
Really, what I could have done is just stuck a 57 in a closet and cranked the daylights out of it and added that in.
Or used a Mackie.
I got one somewhere.
That's 6. We can mix and match. Let's send you out the door. So anyway, that's my little project, and Anth's got an interesting project. And next week, and I'll make this tiny insert, and then I'll turn it over to Anth. Next week, we're gonna have our newest contributor, Brandon. How do you pronounce his last name? Is it Capral?
Capral.
Brandon Capral. Caporal. Holy mackerel! Throwing a little Les Claypool reference for you. Anyway, Brandon is going to be by next week, and my good friend, longtime partner in rock and roll and lighting guy, Steve Kowalczyk, is going to be here. Both live sound guys, both drummers. Steve is a builder of drums. Also does a bunch of work in the touring industry. He doesn't tour, but he does a bunch of work with touring acts that come through town. So we got a lot of interesting things. It's going to be primarily a drum episode, but we're also going to slip in an update on Anthony's project, which he will now tell you about.
So, Brandon wrote his first post about what we were going to be getting into. And I'll just kind of go over it real quick in case you didn't read it. Brandon and I, for our band, have spent the last over a year now tracking stuff because we all got busy schedules. We're all married. A couple of the guys got kids. I've got a kid on the way. All that kind of stuff.
You know, I think that's the first time you actually come out and said that instead of hinting at it. I'm proud of you. The state of denial is finally melting away.
There is a child cooking in my wife right now. So I don't think, well, technically it's after midnight, so it's 12 weeks, so she's okay with telling people now, so that's fine. But, life's busy, and we don't have the luxury of, taking a stack of cash and going and living somewhere for a couple weeks and just doing an album from front to back. We've had to do, 1 or 2 songs with drums one day, do another the next week, all that stuff, and then tours come up, everything. So it took us about a year and a half, I guess, to really get everything pretty much where we wanted. I think the vocals were pretty much done. We had some background vocals to do, but we were getting pretty close on mix, and everything was sounding real good, but it was all done separate, and we really loved playing together live, and we've had a good time of it, and there's just, there's a cohesiveness that you don't really get if everybody plays separate. So after Brandon and I got kind of hopped up on the Sound City movie that Dave Grohl did, I haven't actually watched it. I've just watched the trailer like 10 or 15 times. We decided that we wanted to use Pro Tools as a tape machine more than anything else. So, we don't have money to go out and buy an SSL, but John's got this great little Soundcraft Series 2, so it's got nice pre's and a decent EQ section on it.
Side note, I may have sabotaged us on getting 400B channels because the current source has started selling them off on eBay since I slipped and mentioned it on Reddit.
Damn. Well,
I happen to know where there's another 400B all in one piece, though, in non-working condition, so I may be able to wrangle that.
Yeah, let's do that. We'll figure out. Out of 40 channels, we should be able to get 2 working. I hope.
Sell the rest.
So what we did is I borrowed John's Series 2 40-channel board and his 24-channel Snake, and everything is getting run into the Soundcraft. We'll probably take a stereo bus out to just for, just for some summing in there, I guess. But the idea is no edits. We'll punch in and out. If there's a section that needs to get redone, we redo the whole section. None of this, all that one kick was off, let's go and just nudge that here or there, wherever. No. We're going to do it old school. We're going to get some rock and roll feel back into it. Actually, tomorrow's our first tracking session, or today rather. In between my morning and night services, I've got to strip the entire stage down, take all my microphones upstairs, play set, make sure sounds are all still good, repatch after my banjo tracking session tonight, which was interesting.
Always is.
Yeah. You never realize how quiet a banjo is until you have to compete with the air in the room to get a signal out of that sucker.
Trying competing with the rest of a bluegrass band on an open-air stage.
Oh, I did.
Hey, have you heard the one, do you know how to tune a banjo?
No.
Can't frickin' tune a banjo. What's the matter with you? It's not possible.
I couldn't get the thing up to tune. Like, I had 2 tuners out, and it was just too quiet for either one of them to pick up, so we had to kind of do it by ear. And it sounds good enough. But tomorrow we're starting tracking. We've got a couple songs we're going to run through, get final sounds, take pictures, write everything down so we can remember what we did, because everything's got to go back to another room. But the drum kit will stay in one place. Everything will stay patched once it's patched. And just burn through. We want to get the whole thing done in less than a month, or at least ready for mix in less than a month. Which sounds a little bit ambitious, but there's I'm going to be seeing these guys more than my wife for the next couple of weeks. So
that's how it goes.
Yeah, but
you should do a podcast on how being involved in this industry affects your family life.
You need to really have a strong and supportive and open-minded wife.
She just needs to understand how things are at the outset. And yours did. She was a production gal.
Yeah, she's fine. She understands that I will still cook dinners when I'm around, and things.
She understands that you plan on coming back.
Right, yeah. I'm not going that far. It's 7 minutes down the road, but I'm pretty excited to get into it and really see, this could be the worst decision that we've made yet. But
well, at least it'll be over with quickly instead of languishing for a year.
Right. But that on top of, I think, that project this month, hopefully by April, I'm going to be wrapped up with that. April, I'll be wrapped up with another project that I've been working on for a whole year because the guy's schedule is just as bad as mine, and he played the drums, is doing the vocals, did some of the guitar, and then I supplemented everything else except for the organ. That should be done in April. There's another project that what the hell am I doing? There's John's project, over at his church. I'll be helping out with that, so that's another big weekend. I'm just hoping I can keep it all straight in between projects and not start patching things differently to match another session, because that's probably going to happen. But
I'm pretty good at patch. If you need, you can just buy me a $1 cheeseburger. I'll come over and sort your life out for you.
It costs you more in gas to drive to my place than the cheeseburger, but okay.
Yeah, hey, it's not that far.
And then we're also looking into. I sent an email to, I guess one of my good friends' bosses over at the Big Cheese studio in town, because they have an SSL 4K there that we want to try, and if budget allows, mix John's record over there.
Although if budget allows, and actually this isn't a bad segue, what I'd like to do is just getting like the Slate virtual console package, going to town with that, because the great thing about this is, well, basically this project has zero budget. Like, there really is not a budget for our church record, so like some people are sort of taking it upon themselves. Like, I don't know who's paying for the flights to get.
I was wondering about that. To
get Buddy up from Texas, but I'm pretty sure that's not coming out of church coffers. Oh, maybe it is. Maybe they worked it out. But there's no budget. The guy who owns the studio is hooking the church up for free, getting us some blocks of time in an otherwise quiet period.
Yep.
So while it sounds like a great idea, like, yeah, $500 a day, we can scoot downtown, blaze tracks on the SSL. Probably we're gonna wind up mixing down just.
As long as it's not on that frickin' icon, I don't really care. I'd rather
whatever. It's a mouse. It's a big USB mouse. But
accidentally
the
spill.
thing is, like, sorry, text from High Command. That's my loving pet name for my wife. Well, anyway, let's get into it about. It's so hard to do this watching Pawn Stars. We're not watching. We're just. It's a family show.
I'm not going to make any noises to augment that.
Thank you for your maturity. The other thing we wanted to talk about, because Anth's been investing heavily in in vintage plugins. Bought himself a tape machine plugin the other day. Saw that it was on sale. Called up one of his bandmates and said, "Hey, do you think we could pull band money out to buy this?" Bandmate says, "Yeah, sure." Anth says, "Good, here's the receipt." That's a perfect way to do business. But the tape plugins now, we've gone over and over and over this. Like, yes, tape sounds great. Do you want to buy a tape machine? Well, lots of people think so, and then lots of people sell them again without ever recording a single single inch of tape over the tape heads. Why? Because rubber rollers go bad and need to be replaced. They're getting scarce. Tape itself is getting scarce in certain sizes. Just the sheer monotony of it, like biasing and ringing out a tape machine, setting azimuth, doing all that stuff, getting out the denatured alcohol, cleaning off the heads and the rollers and the pinchers and all that stuff.
Taking a little swig here and there to keep yourself going.
Right, and the Studers are great. There's all these stories about it fell off a truck and we still recorded it. Okay, but that's not true about everything. So
right.
Just from getting old, you might find that in the middle of your session after the 25th take, the tension goes wrong and it just snaps, or the tension's not wrong enough to snap the tape, but it is wrong enough to slowly stretch it out. Yeah. And there's just such a nightmare of things to happen in the tape world that a lot of guys think they want to do it and then quit, or they use Clasp or something like that. So they're using the record and playback heads as a plug-in with one setting,
Right,
and
and just
sorting
run
out
it
the
through.
latency. And what I've always maintained, and I maintained this even before the technology got good enough to do it, I was like, dude, eventually they're going to get there. Like, there'll be enough processing power in a desktop computer, and people will understand modeling well enough. And fortunately, it happened while there are still good tape machines in existence to model, and people who understand tape machines and all the electronics within well enough to say, yeah, that model sounds pretty much like this machine. Like, so, you know, the guy who owns the machine and has babied it along for years could probably tell you the difference. Nobody else is going to.
Right.
Because what is it? Oh, it's the magic of tape. Something about, you know, dragging plastic with iron oxide across those tape heads and yada, yada, yada. Like, no, it's preamps and it's saturation conditions that gently roll off the highs, although they would always build in like an emphasis circuit. So there's some subtle modulation of the highs. And if you drive them hard, there's a clearly definable set of harmonics in the lows. Now, people think of distortion as being like a high frequency characteristic, but no, that analog warmth that everybody talks about from tubes and tapes.
It's how like the bass and kick drum growl a little bit harder.
It's too late for me to remember if it's even or odd or harmonics, because it honestly, day to day, it doesn't matter. Like, it's harmonics. That's all it is. So like I would submit that on a budget project, you could simulate tape by adding some hiss, say with a Mackie console, and turn a distortion plug on and use it very, very gently and band limit it to the lows, say below 600, and see what it does to your sound. Like, probably you could fake. Like, if you
that's what I
found
did with that Elvis song before, because I sent that out as not mastered but roughly mastered before, and I was like, I really want an old sound, and so I set everything to a bus where all I did was take out everything above 550 or 600 and use just a touch, like I think 0.1 of the saturation, and that was it, and that made it nice and tasty. Like, not as good as the tape plugin that I just got, but
you probably could have,
for free.
Some of our buddies that read tape op real religiously, I bet if we had lied and said, hey man, I pumped these drum tracks out to an Otari reel to reel, and I put them back into Pro Tools, and it was rad, dude. And they go, oh yeah, that's that sound, dude. Like, it's it's not the magic of tape, folks.
I wonder how close that is.
I don't know if these mics are good enough to pick that up. And the first thing I did, Anth hands me his new MacBook the other night with his new tape plug-in on it, and I'm like, all right, where's the button that turns the hiss off? Because that's one thing I don't want from a tape project. I mean, and you could hear it on, you know, he had the plug-in enabled on like 6 tracks in the master, and I, you know, bypassed them all, and every one that you turned on added hiss. Now, you can adjust that a little bit. Like, some would call that air, and maybe you do want it on something, but there's a noise reduction slider, and you could make it go away like you never could on any sort of tape machine. So anyway, that's why I'm have been and am going to continue to be an advocate for vintage plugins, because, you know, okay, whatever. There might be some magic in that old Studer or that old Otari of yours, but it's still just a plug-in with one preset, and eventually it's going to break, and eventually there's just not going to be parts for it anymore.
Yep, and this is, I mean, just the initial cost to get into a Studer or an Otari is not terribly astronomical, but definitely not $200.
Yep.
So,
and people talk about, you know, making these old albums. Like, one of the nice things about tape was, you know, you finish a song, 4 or 5 minute song, you got to wait 2.5 minutes for it to rewind, because those machines did not move fast, so they didn't stretch out the tape or break it.
Right.
So, you know, people wound up sitting there, and you had to talk about the take, and you had to talk about the music. I like the fact that I can use those things, and we can do that. Like, I talk about doing projects with limitations all the time. Like, record something using only 4 tracks, 8 tracks, 16 tracks, whatever it is. Limit yourself in that way. Use only 1 compressor and 1 EQ.
Yep.
You know, that's just another limitation. Like, all right, guys, after every take, like, you could probably even automate it. After every take, we're going to take 2 minutes and just chill out and talk about it before we listen back to it. Or, since you're not limited, you can have all that tape stuff and work really, really fast if you have to.
Yeah. And that's definitely helpful when you're going to try and fix one little part or automate your compression in on one part because something got out of hand. It's a lot easier than waiting every time to...
Yeah. So we've said all that stuff over and over and over again. And the guys that really believe in analog gear, we're certainly not mocking those guys, but that's an investment that not everybody can afford to make.
Right.
And not just in money, but in time and in expertise. So I, for one, am really glad that the analog cats are still out there.
Yeah.
Because I love it when a technology becomes sort of boutique-y like that, and like the Civil War buffs that in that there's no purpose for. Like, it's just for pure amusement, but they're keeping something alive.
Right.
And timber framers. I think it's cool that there are guys that still build timber frame barns and houses. So certainly glad that you guys are out there and keeping that aspect of the business alive. But I think for the day in, day out of it, for everybody from the big shots making $1 million records to the paperboy making a dubstep record in his bedroom on his laptop. Mm-hmm. But there's no question the work that you can do in digital is improving every day, and there's a lot of good reasons to just do it and not bemoan the loss of the analog days, because there's quite a lot you can do to capture that warmth, that magic, those working conditions.
The working conditions.
Yeah. Well, there is something to it. I mean, I for one will not ever bemoan the days of having to walk into the studio and spend a solid hour sniffing denatured alcohol before I can spool up my tape machines. And I mean, and it's just with everything, like even in the digital world, think about how much easier it is now. Like you can just walk up to a MacBook with a terabyte hard drive, plug it in, and the shit works.
Yep.
Swear jar. We joked about we talked about it at the podcast. Our buddy Matt Makowitz was on back even with Macs, which were supposed to be just easy and just work. Like, okay, we have this system called SCSI, Small Computer Systems Interface, and you just address your peripherals, and there's an internal bus and an external bus, and it's no sweat. You just set the address and off you go. Well, you set the address, but did you put something with a different address ahead of it? Like, is there a previous device with a higher address? Because that might work with some chipsets, but maybe not. And then did you terminate that last device? Does it have built-in termination? And if you use the built-in termination and then put a physical terminator on it, is that going to make it unhappy? So what it basically came down to is if you had a SCSI hard drive, like a real whopper, like 100 megabyte SCSI external that you were going to do your video project on, by the time you were done with it, like there's a guy in war paint sacrificing chickens in the corner of the room. Like you just, the lights are all out. Guys are sweaty. Their shirts are all
red
like
candles everywhere.
Right. Like people are
on the walls.
bleeding and the guys are chanting. Like it's just, unplug everything, shut it down, unplug everything, lick all the connectors, change all the orders, change all the addresses, change the termination, boot up again, wait 6 minutes, nothing. Just the fact that you can just plug in a USB 3 drive and dump a terabyte onto it and have that transpire.
Yeah.
Like the whole process, like I forget what it was. I moved slightly more. I was right. I was either a little more or a little less than half a terabyte onto a drive because I needed to free up some space on my system drive. It took 12 minutes on a USB 3 drive or something like that. I mean, less than half an hour, whatever it was. 12 minutes, 17 minutes.
Yep. I
mean, I would have been just getting warmed up if that was a SCSI system.
Were you able to take it out of standby mode by then?
Really? Anyway, I keep rambling on about that stuff. That's the second time we've hashed all that up. Yeah, anyway, just thank your lucky stars, kids. Technology is bringing you, the magic of days gone by with the steadfast reliability. Like, you don't have to worry if your gear is having a good day. You don't have to worry about the humidity. Like, if you pull up a plug-in, it's going to work. Yep. You just know this.
And they even make them pretty with moving VU meters, and on the tape plug-in, the tape moves, and if you change the speed, it slows down.
Oh, yeah, they all look just like,
that's
whatever.
Pretty kick-ass.
Plugins I use don't look like anything, but they're 64 bits.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, what else were we... That might be just about it. How much... We got half a podcast in anyway.
That's not bad.
It's not super late. So what else we got?
I don't know what else we got.
All right. Well, I want to, speaking of, this is sort of just a teaser show, I guess, and I'm probably just going to bill it as such when I post it. We were joking the other day when we were talking about some of these monsters like Pensato and Algae and Maserati, these big shot guys, and feeling like we're sort of not fit to even have their assistants on our show.
Right.
But we did think of a couple of guys. You hear us talk about Joey all the time.
Yeah.
Our buddy Joe is one of these guys that used to just make records in his apartment, like with Pro Tools LE.
He's still using LE.
And whatever mics he could get his hands on, and just makes it rain. So he's who we've got our sights set on. But it's tough because he's all famous and stuff now. Like his band's touring Japan, and when he's not touring Japan, he's playing Letterman with other bands.
He's right now, him and Steve are on a month-long European tour with Jen Wigmore, who I guess is pretty big over there. She was on they did Leno and Jimmy Kimmel with her a couple weeks ago. Like, she's on one of the Heineken commercials for the new James Bond movie. Like she's pretty big. I don't know how they got into it, but they're nasty musicians, and also Joe's a killer engineer live and the studio. So he's one of those super multifaceted guys that can go and program a router and then go and mix an album that's going to sell hundreds of thousands of copies.
Yeah, that's the thing. He's not just sort of able to do everything. He's sort of able to do everything really freaking good.
Yeah.
And then but I will always maintain that the greatest thing about Joe is the way he does things. And this has struck me about a number of individuals that I'm proud to call friends. Is some friends of mine that I had, move out to LA and get a record deal and tour and, go on Warped and do all this other stuff. When they would come home to see us, they were, I think, almost more excited to see us than we were to see them. Like, yeah, rock star friends from LA are back in town, woo! And they would be just as jazzed to be back in this little mud pit of a town and see all their low class buds. Yeah. And Joe's one of those guys. Like, he is just so glad to see you and so warm and engaging, and like he'll know you're dying to ask him how the Brazilian leg of the tour, the Japanese leg of the tour was, and he's busy asking me like what bars I'm doing sound in, and what other cruddy projects I'm working on. Now this episode was on just an hour ago.
Well, it's after midnight, so it's...
Oh, it all starts over again?
What the hell?
Huh. All right, anyway. It's nice how we had no rhyme or reason or really any idea what we were going to talk about when we hit play, despite our promise to do better on that front. Spent a couple hours messing with a router.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think we've given you a bit to think of. So anyway, we're going to try and get Joe on the show. We're definitely going to bring you a pair of drummer / live sound guys. And Steve's a lighting guy. I don't know how much we'll get into that, though. We always talk about... Actually, we don't talk about lighting. We think about talking about lighting, but we never do.
Because usually any time that we have to think about lighting, something's gone terribly wrong.
We're usually running to put out a fire. And literally... that's not a figurative. That's
stuff's gotten...
Dimmer rack's on fire.
It smells like there's a radiator in the closet with my dimmer rack. Oh, God. Someone spilled the fog juice on it.
Ooh, that's a good...
I don't know why.
Next time I need a day off, I'm going to do that. Spill 10 drops of bug juice in the dimmer rack. I got to go.
I don't know why it ended up there, but we had, like, in this little back closet we got ventilated and stuff. Someone decided that was the best place to keep the fog juice and the snow machine juice on, like, kind of sitting on this shelf above it that's not real stable. Like, the anchors are pulling out of the wall a little bit. Like, you understand what you did right here, right? No.
Is it a snow machine?
Yeah.
You got all kinds of toys. Man, I spent so much time and effort and money tracking down dry ice machines to get little ones. And turns out Ant's got a 55-gallon one sitting behind his... Like, dang it.
In the basement behind him, 2 busted Clavinovas and some Taekwondo gear. Yeah. We do everything at the church.
Right. Well, why don't we do what we always threaten to do instead of dragging it out, because we could easily go 20 more minutes and get to the hour mark, but let's wrap this up. We'll make it a short one this week. We'll start doing the housekeeping stuff here. Want to say thank you and a big hat tip to all our friends and readers and listeners from Reddit.
Yep.
Reddit has been the key to our success, not just bringing us a lot of views to the page, a lot of uniques, but I mean, that's nice. It's nice to see your numbers shoot up to 6,000 in a day.
That was pretty kick-ass.
But posting stuff on Reddit and having that stuff be accepted for good or bad and getting some feedback has really helped us fine-tune what people want out of the blog. Because let's face it, there's a lot of, even in a industry as specific as ours and an interest group as small as this, there's a ton of stuff out there. I mean, you search for any audio topic, you can find all kinds of blogs, from high school kids that barely know what they're talking about to heavy hitters in the industry. So we're just a small ripple in that pond, and now we kind of found the shape that we're going to be in, something that's that we're capable of, for one. We don't
get too in over our heads.
We said from the outset that we're not sitting out to write white papers or manuals on anything and not have the last word on anything, but really just to get thought going. And we keep saying it, the mini podcast, that's where it's at. We've set a goal for ourselves to do one of those a week, and keep pumping those out. If you've got requests for stuff, our buddy Nate sent us in one, which I'm going to try and shoot out this week. We're going to talk about vocal EQ a little bit, live and in the studio. So that means if anybody wants to listen, I'll actually come to your house and set up a concert stage and show you how to EQ vocals on a 20,000 watt PA. Not anymore. Not since
you
I
started on fire.
Not since I done did hurt my back, and yeah, I actually did. That was kind of a fitting end to that sound system that sold it to a guy, and then I caught it on fire after he paid me for it. But
sucker.
Thing is, though, he rebuilt it with better components, and then he caught it on fire. So
whatever.
It was doomed. So anyway, said all that to say this. Thanks again to the folks from Reddit. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for your words. And thanks, most of all, for keeping it classy. I recommend the forums that I'm in and many other forums on Reddit, because you guys, unlike all the Usenet groups and some of the forums and other places, are able to have sometimes heated disagreements on subjects and not resort to your mama jokes and other lower forms of insults. So thanks for that. And Reddit guys, get in touch. We're out there. You see a post from Smart to Noise Ratio on there, drop the OP a line and let him know, because I say him, it's me. Let me know what it is you'd like to hear about, read about, listen to, and we will do our level best to get it out there to you. What else we got?
Twitter, Facebook.
Yeah, we're on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on Facebook more than on Twitter. Anthony sort of handles the Twitter thing. I haven't opened Hootsuite or TweetDeck or any of that stuff in quite a while. But we do get on Facebook. I'm on the Facebook page at least twice a day, even on a very busy day. So if you want to get in touch with us, that's a real good way to do it. Just look up Smart. And on Facebook, that's the one spot I actually spelled it out. It's like Smart to Noise. You search that, we'll pop up. Hit the fan page, like us, send us messages. We will respond if it's a good hit, if it's a good question. Might get turned into a blog post, might get talked about on the podcast. We'll give you a shout out. You'll become our dear friend. We will come to your house and have picnics in the nice weather. You will come to our house and sit around the campfire. Yep. It's La Familia. Once you get in with SNR,
you don't get out.
It ain't no getting out. In fact, I'm in the bushes outside your house right now.
We need to end this. We're gonna get cops showing up at my place.
So there's all that stuff, and also contributors. I wouldn't be at all opposed to having a dozen or more contributors, because that would mean I wouldn't have to rack my brains to write a post every stinking weekday. Yep. Which I missed Friday today. I got busy. Oh, you know what? We might make the hour yet. We could talk about grilled cheese day real quick.
Oh yeah.
Got the a local supply house, rental house and retailer, been in business for more than 20 years. Actually, almost 30 now, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of long time. Applied Audio in Rochester. I want to give a shout out to those guys. Every year on Groundhog's Day, they turn their warehouse into sort of a conference hall. Yeah. It's moodily lit. There are screens everywhere playing Groundhog's Day and every other Bill Murray movie you can think of, and they feed you grilled cheese sandwiches, and you just hang out and see who else from the biz shows up, and you get some swag.
Stuff. Yeah.
Usually the lighting, you get an ETC thumb drive that looks like a Source 4, and you get a
greatest day of my life.
Whirlwind hat.
And walked in yesterday with two of those. They're fantastic looking.
I couldn't believe how happy he was with those. I gave him the one I snagged for him, and then I gave him mine too, because it just made the little feller so happy. And he's just not, ever. So wasn't that it made him so happy, it was that it made him happy, period, like to the point of bubbling over. Of course, he was pretty drunk, but...
Yeah.
So anyway, it's like a little mini trade show. I mean, it's kind of our thing in the area. You know, a lot of guys don't bother going to CES or NAMM or any of that other stuff. So it's a chance to get together. There weren't that many factory reps this year, which kind of speaks to what I was going to say. And from all appearances and from talking to people, the industry is sort of contracting. Everybody I talk to is maybe not as depressed as they were last year or the year before, but the grim reality is kind of set in. You got to be very careful lest you place a foot wrong and wreck everything and go under.
Yeah.
Wow, they're playing all these episodes back in reverse order. This is the exact reverse order that I just watched them all in. Don't put hockey on. But anyway, I got to talk to. I ran into a cat that I went to college with, who I think I actually see at Grilled Cheese Day every year, but I'm forgetful and he's high, so we it's like seeing each other for the first time every year.
Josh Mullen goes to Grilled Cheese Day.
No, he's usually lucid enough to remember me. But yeah, the general consensus from all the people that we talk to is the industry is still a great place to be if you know your stuff, if you're being very careful. So that means you need to be good at making business decisions, and if you're not, you need to get a partner or an advisor that is.
Yep.
And make sure that you step careful and step correct, because you can't afford to. The days of just throwing money at stuff are gone. You got to really do your research. You got to know the gear to buy. You got to know the type of gigs to go after, the coverage you need. It's still out there and it's still thriving, but it's tight.
It's getting a lot smarter, I guess.
So that actually doesn't bode too well. Actually, your wife and I were, well, I wasn't talking about it. Never mind. There was a conversation going on that I was privy to about, people going to college or not going to college. And, it's just tough. It still takes 2 or 4 years or sometimes more to go to college. And you don't necessarily know if the industry you want to work in is going to be waiting for you when you get out. So, the suggestion that we make to a lot of people is, one, don't bother going to Full Sail or going into some production program. While it can be a great environment, you can make a lot of great contacts.
Can also waste a lot of time and money.
If it winds up not being for you. I mean, my generation has paid and is paying through the nose for an education, and they're either trapped in a job that they hate because they didn't study what they love, or they studied what they love and they can't get a job.
Yeah.
There's so many ways that getting a college education can screw you anymore that you got to think long and hard about doing that. You could go out and get a job in the industry and get paid to learn it. And the thing is, if you're good, if you have within yourself the raw materials to if you have what it takes to work in this industry, it doesn't matter. I have a couple of friends who are very, very good at what they do, went to Full Sail. I also know for every guy that I know from Full Sail who's awesome, I know 99.
There's a whole other graduating class.
Yeah, I know 99 that couldn't mix their way out of a coffee shop. So I always maintain that if you have some gifting, if you have the drive, if you have the love, if you're willing to suffer for your art, you're going to find the information that you need and make the contacts that you need, because you're not going to see any other way around it. I mean, I have just been in my career just so bold in going after things. Like, I'm often shocked at myself about how hard I pursue things. I'm like, wow, that is so not me. Like, I would never say, if I was interviewing for another type of job, I would not have been that forceful or that impetuous with somebody I was speaking to. But because I love what I do, that comes out. Anyway, we're rambling a little bit. What was I saying? Gosh, I can't even remember. Well, we talked about Grilled Cheese Day a little bit. I guess I interrupted talking about contributors. I know it's not everybody's talent in this business to be able to write. Fortunately, a couple of us are sort of gifted with that a little bit anyway. But if you read the blog at all, our style is very conversational. So if you can throw together a few words that maybe just sound like a couple sound guys leaning on the amp rack after the gig, chewing the fat. That's exactly the kind of thing we need. Doesn't even need to be a fully formed idea. I mean, if you just want to pose a question to our readers and see what comes up. I mean, Reddit's a great platform for that, but if you'd like to do that on our blog, we would welcome it. Welcome some discussion. So, all right, how are we doing on time? Pretty good. We're only about 10 minutes shy of an hour, so we're not going to short you too much of your value.
All that free money.
What else do we got? So we can talk about. No, let's not start anything else. Let's just wrap it up. I'm freaking tired, and I got to mix church in the morning, and the wheels are probably going to fall off of that one, too. So, Anyway, thanks for tuning in. If you are a listener but not yet a reader, check us out at smart2blogspot.com. Or look us up on Facebook, Smart to Noise. Search that, find us, friend us. We will get you back if you shoot us questions. Yeah. And feel free to use us as that resource. I mean, we're your buddies. You've been listening to us for 30-plus episodes now. Some of you, it's like we already know each other. So don't be shy. Even if you're a noob, don't be embarrassed. There's no stupid questions. In fact, I actually like it when a noob will like just misunderstand something so bad that they ask me a question that I don't even understand. Like, sorry, son. Let's walk over and show me what you're working with, because the words that are coming out of your mouth make no sense to me. I really actually like questions like that, and I would never ever mock anybody, Chachi, for asking questions like that. I only mock Chachi because he asked me questions like that when I've left him with an expensive client. But all right, so that's it. We're gonna wrap this pig up and put her to bed.
Cool.
Yeah. You got anything you want to tack on?
Nope.
All right, good deal. This has been the Smart to Noise Ratio Per Audio podcast. You've been a wonderful audience. Thanks for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.
Good night.